My name is Salima, and I am 65 years old. Life has given me a lot, but it has taken just as much away. Today, I will tell you a truth I have kept buried in my heart for 30 years. A story filled with love, betrayal, and a mother's heart that never breaks, not even with its last breath. Hannah, the light of my eyes. When my husband passed away, I broke from the inside. But my daughter, she was small, innocent. Her smile kept me alive. I raised her, taught her, stayed awake through her illnesses, stitched clothes for her, worked in people's homes, all so she could one day walk through this world with her head held high. When she turned 24, a proposal came from Hamza, a respectable family, educated people. Hannah was happy, and I thought that day Allah had finally rewarded every sacrifice I ever made. I didn't hold back anything when it came to fulfilling my daughter's dreams. The hall was glowing with lights and joy, yet I sat quietly in a corner. On the wedding day, I believed my child would hold my hand and say, "Mom, nothing matters more than you." But what happened was completely different. They walked toward me with a stiff face and whispered, "Mom, some people think you look too simple. Please don't come near the stage. Just sit outside." I softly replied, "But I'm your mother." They quickly said, "Mom, please, don't ruin my image today." 200 people watched as I stood up and silently walked out of the hall. That night, I wanted to cry, but no tears came. I only asked myself, can a mother really become a burden to her own child? The next morning, they came to my house. I was told, "Put the house in their name. They're married now, it's their right." I answered calmly, "I built this house with my own hands. When you build something of your own, I will gladly give it." They left in anger and never returned. My calls, my messages remained unanswered. Days turned into months, months into years. I grew sick, weak, lonely. Yet no one knocked on my door. Only one hope lived inside me, that my child would come back someday. Years later, on a stormy night, someone banged on the door. I opened it, and there they were. Soaked, trembling, bruised, broken. They cried, "Mom, I was wrong. I lost my way. I hurt you, and I regret it deeply." I pulled them into my arms and whispered, "A mother never throws her child out, even if the child once did that to her." They told me everything. The pressures, the misunderstandings, the mistakes that led to heartbreak. I listened quietly and wiped their tears. Life brought us back together. I helped them stand again, with healing, support, and love. Slowly they softened. They became the same child who once slept in my arms. And today I say this to every parent. Children can be misled. They can make mistakes. They can even hurt us deeply. But a parent? They never stop loving. The first few times were the hardest. Her own grief was raw and heavy, but she discovered something remarkable. Pain shared becomes lighter, and hope given becomes real. She volunteered, she organized small support groups, she created safe spaces where people could cry and scream and heal. She realized that by helping others she was helping herself. Every day was a struggle. She still had to work, she still had bills, she still had nights when she cried into her pillow. But slowly she began to feel strength returning. She remembered how he had always believed in her, how he had seen the light in her heart. She carried that belief forward. And with each story she heard, each person she comforted, she felt a little lighter, a little stronger, a little more alive. One evening a mother she had helped held her hands and said, "You saved me, you reminded me that life is worth living." Mary felt tears streaming down her face. But this time they were not only for sorrow, they were tears of purpose, of meaning, of love that could not be destroyed. Years passed and Mary's life transformed. She built a community. She inspired thousands. She raised her daughter with love and courage. And she never stopped remembering him, not as a source of pain, but as the reason. She found her calling. She turned grief into action and tragedy into hope. Mary's story is not just about losing a loved one, it is about rising when everything falls apart, about taking broken pieces and building something meaningful, about being brave when the world tells you you cannot be brave, about choosing love and action over despair. And for every person watching who has felt the weight of loss or the sting of tragedy, remember that strength lives in you too. You can choose to rise, you can choose to create light, you can turn your pain into purpose. Because life will test you, life will knock you down, life will take things you never expected, but courage is born in the moments you decide to stand again. And like Mary, you can take every broken piece and... She wakes up before the sun even touches the horizon, and for a moment she just lies there listening to the soft breathing of her little daughter in the next room. It is the kind of sound that reminds her that even when life feels broken, there is still something worth fighting for. Her name is Mary. And today is not just another day, it is another day to survive, another day to honor the man she lost, and another day to turn pain into purpose. It all happened one ordinary morning. The phone rang, and a voice she barely recognized said, "We are so sorry, there has been an accident involving your husband." Mary felt the ground disappear beneath her. She could not move, she could not speak. The world that had seemed solid just a moment ago crumbled into nothing. She ran to the hospital. But when she arrived, he was gone. The man she had shared dreams with, held hands with, and laughed with was no longer there. For days she did not sleep, she did not eat. She wandered through the house staring at things that reminded her of him: the coffee mug, the keys, the jacket hanging by the door. Every corner whispered the truth. She could not escape. Every breath reminded her of what she had lost. And yet she had someone who needed her. She held her daughter tightly, whispering, "It will be okay. Baby, it will be okay." Even though she did not yet believe it herself, she realized that she could either let this tragedy destroy her, or she could let it give her a reason to rise. She chose to rise. Mary remembered something he had told her: once you have the heart to help others, even when the world feels dark, you can bring light. And she decided that light would be her purpose. She began by reaching out to families who had experienced loss like hers. She spoke to widows, she listened to mothers who had lost children, she held the hands of strangers, and said, "You are not alone."